The numbers burned into my retinas, a digital accusation glaring from my laptop screen. $450,000. That was the sum that had vanished from the Horizon Research Foundation's accounts over the past 18 months. My hands hovered over the keyboard, trembling with a cocktail of exhaustion and dread. I'd been dissecting spreadsheets for 10 hours straight, chasing a trail of discrepancies that twisted through the Foundation's financial records like a venomous snake. Every click led me closer to a truth I wasn't ready to face. But there it was, undeniable, pointing to my mother, Evelyn Caldwell, the Foundation's revered president. My name is Elise Caldwell, and I've spent my life as the invisible daughter, the one who dots every I, crosses every T, and never steps out of line. While my stepsister, Lila Monroe, sparkled at galas and charmed boardrooms, I buried myself in datasets and lab reports, content to let my work speak for itself. I wasn't bitter about it. I loved the quiet precision of research, the way numbers could tell stories no one else could hear. But tonight, those numbers were screaming. And their story was a betrayal that threatened to unravel everything I'd ever known. Still at it, Elise? A voice broke through my haze. Marcus Reed, my colleague and closest friend, leaned against the doorframe of my cluttered office, his silhouette softened by the dim glow of the hallway. He held a steaming mug of tea chamomile, probably his go-to for late nights. It's past midnight. Whatever you're chasing can wait. I shook my head, my throat tight. It can't. I swiveled my laptop toward him, the screen casting a harsh light on his face. Look at this. The Foundation's expense reports don't match the bank statements. Someone's been draining the accounts hundreds of thousands, Marcus. And the approvals, my voice faltered. They're all signed by my mother. Marcus set his mug down with a clink, his easy grin fading as he leaned over my shoulder. His eyes darted across the spreadsheet, taking in the columns of numbers, the forged signatures, the shell companies listed as consultants. Are you sure? He asked, his voice low. This is heavy, Elise. Your mother's been running this place for 20 years. I triple-checked, I said, rubbing my temples. The trail's clear. She's been funneling money from the research grants, cancer studies, pediatric trials, all of Itinto accounts I can't even trace yet. And she's using her position as president to cover it up. Marcus straightened, his jaw tight. What are you going to do? My phone buzzed on the desk, the screen lighting up with a text from Lila. Mom's obsessed with the gala next month. Says you have to show this time. No excuses, nerd. I stared at the words, the casual nickname stinging more than it should. Lila, with her flawless smile and effortless charm, had always been Evelyn's golden child, the one who could do no wrong. I'd spent years swallowing the comparisons, the subtle digs about my bookish nature, but now, knowing what I knew, it felt like a knife twisting deeper. I closed the laptop with a decisive snap. I'm going to that gala, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But not to play the dutiful daughter. I'm going to find out exactly what she's hiding and why. The next morning, I arrived at the Foundation's sleek downtown headquarters before the sun had fully risen. The building was a glass and steel monument to progress, its atrium lined with plaques celebrating breakthroughs funded by Horizon's grants. I'd always been proud to work here, to contribute to research that saved lives. Now every polished surface felt like a lie. Evelyn's assistant, Nora, was already at her desk, sorting through a stack of invitations for the gala. She looked up with a warm smile. Elise, you're early. What brings you to the executive floor? Just dropping off some grant proposals. I lied, patting the messenger bag slung over my shoulder. Is my mother in? She's in a meeting with Julian Vosslila's fiancé, Nora said, her tone brightening at the mention of Julian. Something about gala sponsorships. He's been so generous this year. My stomach churned. Julian Voss, a hedge fund manager with a smile as slick as his tailored suits, had swept into Lila's life 2 years ago, and Evelyn had welcomed him like a prodigal son. If he was involved in the gala, he might be tied to the missing money too. Thanks, Nora, I said, forcing a smile. I'll catch her later. The moment Nora turned back to her work, I slipped down the hall to Evelyn's corner office. The door was ajar, the room empty, her desk pristine except for a framed photo of her and Lila at last year's gala, both radiant in designer gowns. I was nowhere in sight as usual. Shaking off the pang, I pulled a USB drive from my bag and plugged it into her computer. I'd spent the previous night writing a program to bypass her security, a risky move, but necessary. If Evelyn was hiding something, her files would tell me where to look. The screen flickered as the program ran, copying emails, financial records, anything it could grab before her system locked me out. My pulse pounded in my ears, every creak of the building sounding like footsteps. When the transfer finished, I yanked the drive free and slipped out, my heart still racing as I reached the elevator. Back in my office, Marcus was waiting, his usual calm replaced by a restless energy. "Did you get it?" he asked, closing the door behind him. I nodded, plugging the drive into my laptop. "Let's see what she's been hiding." The files were a labyrinth of coded transactions and cryptic correspondence, but patterns emerged quickly. Payments labeled consulting fees flowed to a company called Apex Ventures, which didn't seem to exist beyond a P.O. box in Delaware. Emails between Evelyn and Julian referenced discretionary funds and offshore allocations, words that sent a chill down my spine. And then there was a folder labeled Legacy Initiative, containing a draft proposal for a new foundation program, except it wasn't about research. It outlined a plan to redirect grant money into private investments, disguised as charitable contributions. "They're laundering money," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Through the Gala, through fake donations, through Lila." Marcus leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean, Lila?" I pulled up an email from Evelyn to Julian. "Lila's announcement at the Gala will seal the deal. The donors won't question her, she's our perfect front." "They're using her public image," I said, bile rising in my throat. "Lila's the face of the foundation, the darling of every charity event. They're banking on her credibility to make this look legitimate." Marcus whistled softly. "Your mother's playing a dangerous game. And Julian's in it up to his neck." My phone rang, Evelyn's name flashing on the screen. I hesitated, then answered, keeping my tone neutral. "Hi, Mother." "Elise, darling," she purred, her voice smooth as silk. "I need you at the dress fitting tomorrow. Lila's chosen a breathtaking gown for the Gala, and we must find you something suitable." The pause carried her usual implication. Nothing too bold, nothing that would outshine Lila. "Of course," I said, my grip tightening on the phone. "Wouldn't miss it." After hanging up, I met Marcus's gaze. I've spent my whole life staying out of her way, doing what she asked, believing she cared about this foundation. But this, I gestured at the screen. This is theft. From researchers, from patients, from people who trusted us. "So what's the plan?" Marcus asked, his voice steady but urgent. I opened the Gala's guest list on my laptop. Board members, donors, media, politicians. "The Gala's the perfect stage," I said. "Mother loves a spectacle. Let's give her one she'll never forget." Over the next week, Marcus and I worked in secret, piecing together the puzzle of Evelyn's scheme. The deeper we dug, the uglier it got. Apex Ventures wasn't the only shell company, there were dozens, each linked to offshore accounts in places like the Caymans and Bermuda. The Legacy Initiative wasn't just a one-off scam. It was a blueprint to turn the foundation into a permanent money laundering machine, with Lila as its unwitting spokesperson. One evening, as we pored over bank statements in my office, a knock at the door made us both freeze. Lila stood there, her auburn hair swept into a flawless updo, a paper bag from my favorite deli in her hand. "Surprise," she said, her smile bright but brittle. "I brought dinner. Figured you could use a break from whatever this is." I scrambled to minimize the windows on my screen while Marcus shoved papers into a drawer. "Lila, what are you doing here?" I asked, my voice too sharp. She set the bag down, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Can't I just drop by? I mean, you're always holed up in here." She perched on the edge of my desk, her designer skirt riding up just enough to seem effortless. "Mother's driving me insane with Gala prep. I needed an escape." Marcus cleared his throat. "I should check on the lab," he said, slipping out with a pointed look that said, "Be careful." Alone with Lila, I studied her, searching for any sign she knew what Evelyn and Julian were doing. But her face was open, unguarded. The same Lila who'd once braided my hair during sleepovers before our parents' marriage fractured our lives. "Everything okay?" I asked, softening my tone. She sighed, her perfect posture slumping. "Julian's been weird. Secretive. He's always on the phone with Mother talking about the gala, but when I ask he brushes me off. I feel like I'm just she trailed off, twisting her engagement ring. Like I'm playing a part one don't understand. My heart skipped. Was it possible she sensed something? Lila, have you noticed anything strange about the foundation? The finances, maybe? Her laugh was sharp, almost bitter. Me? I'm not the numbers girl, Elise. That's your thing. She stood, smoothing her skirt. I should go. Photo shoot for the gala invites. Mother wants everything perfect as usual. After she left, I called Marcus. We need to move faster. Lila's starting to suspect something, even if she doesn't know what. Meet me at the coffee shop in 20, he replied. I found something you need to see. The cafe was a haven of chatter and espresso steam, loud enough to drown out our conversation. Marcus slid a USB drive across the table, his expression grim. I traced Apex Ventures. It's a front for Julian's hedge fund. The money's being funneled through offshore accounts, then back into private investments, real estate, mostly. Your mother's not just stealing. She's building an empire. I sipped my latte, the bitterness matching my mood. Why though? She's got a six-figure salary, a penthouse, everything. There's more, Marcus said, lowering his voice. I found emails about something called Legacy Phase 2. They're planning to announce it at the Gala restructuring that puts all research funding under their control. Approved projects only, meaning projects they can siphon from. The pieces click together like a lock snapping shut. They're using Lila to sell it, I said. Her speech, her facades, all a distraction. Marcus nodded toward the cafe entrance. Speaking of distractions, I followed his gaze and froze. Evelyn and Julian had just walked in, deep in conversation. We ducked behind our menus, but they were too engrossed to notice us, settling at a table nearby. Snippets of their words drifted over. Lila's speech will be flawless. The board won't suspect a thing. Phase 2 locks in the investors. My hand shook as I typed a note on my phone. They're finalizing it at the gala. We can't wait. Marcus nodded, his eyes never leaving them. As Evelyn laughed at something Julian said, I felt a surge of resolve. They thought they were untouchable, but they'd underestimated me and Lila. Back at my apartment that night, I pulled up the gala schedule. Evelyn had choreographed every detail. The speeches, the lighting, the moment Lila would unveil Legacy Phase 2. I couldn't let it happen, but exposing them would mean dismantling my family, my career, everything I'd worked for. Was I ready to burn it all down? A text from Nora interrupted my thoughts. Your mother's asking for the audit files. Says you have them.
Urgent.
My blood ran cold. Evelyn was sniffing around, sensing a leak. I texted Marcus. She's onto us. We need more proof now. The next day, I approached Nora with a plan. She'd always been kind, a rare ally in Evelyn's orbit, and I suspected she'd seen things she wasn't supposed to. Nora, I said, catching her alone in the copy room, have you noticed anything off about the Foundation's books? Her hand stilled on the copier, her eyes darting to the door. Elise, I don't know what you mean. I think you do, I said gently. You handle all the correspondence. You've seen the approvals, the transfers. If something's wrong, you could help fix it. She bit her lip, then pulled a key from her pocket and unlocked a filing cabinet. These are the real board minutes, she whispered, handing me a folder. Your mother's been altering them before they're archived. I kept copies just in case. I flipped through the pages, my heart racing. The minutes detailed votes that never happened. Budgets inflated to hide transfers to Apex Ventures. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. I was scared, Nora admitted. Your mother, she's not someone you cross. You're crossing her now, I said, squeezing her hand. Thank you. That night, Marcus and I met at his apartment, spreading Nora's documents across his dining table. This is dynamite, he said, highlighting a line about a $600,000 consulting fee to a non-existent firm. But we need more than paper. We need to catch them in the act. Lila, I said suddenly. She's the key. If we can get her to see what they're doing, she'll be furious. She's not just a prop, their biggest liability. Convincing Lila wasn't going to be easy. She'd always trusted Evelyn implicitly, basking in her approval. But her comment about feeling like a part had stuck with me. Maybe, just maybe, she was ready to hear the truth. I invited her to lunch the next day, choosing a quiet bistro far from the foundation's prying eyes. She arrived in a cloud of perfume, her smile as polished as ever, but there were shadows under her eyes. "You look tired," I said as we sat down. "Gala stress," she said, waving a hand. "Mother's been relentless. And Julian," she hesitated, sipping her water. "He's been meeting with her constantly. I overheard him talking about securing the accounts last night. It sounded shady." "Lila," I said carefully, "what if it is shady? What if they're doing something with the foundation, something wrong?" She laughed, but it was hollow. "Come on, Elise. Mother's a control freak, sure, but she's not a criminal." I slid a folder across the table, copies of Nora's minutes, redacted to protect her. "Read this. These are the real numbers, not the ones Mother shows the board. Hundreds of thousands missing, funneled through Julian's company." Lila's smile faded as she opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the pages, her manicured nails digging into the paper. This can't be right," she whispered. "She wouldn't." "She is," I said. "And she's planning to use you to announce it at the gala. Legacy phase it's not a charity program. It's a scam." Lila's face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw her without the mask, raw, vulnerable, betrayed. "All those years," she said, her voice breaking. "I thought she was proud of me. But I was just useful." "You're more than that," I said fiercely. "And you can stop this. Help me expose them at the gala. We'll do it together." She was quiet for a long moment, then nodded, her jaw set. "Okay. But we do it my way too. Mother taught me how to steal a spotlight. I'm going to use it to burn her down." Over the next 2 weeks, we became an unlikely trio, me, Lila, and Marcus, plotting in stolen moments between lab work and gala prep. Lila used her access to Evelyn's accounts to pull more files, while Marcus hacked into the foundation's backup servers, uncovering a trove of deleted emails. One revealed a bombshell. Evelyn had bribed a board member, Harold Grayson, to push through the legacy initiative without scrutiny. Harold, a retired surgeon with a reputation for integrity, was our next target. I tracked him down at a golf course, catching him between holes. "Dr. Grayson," I said, stepping into his path, "we need to talk about the foundation." His face tightened, but he waved his caddy away. "I don't know what you think you've heard, young lady, but I'm a busy man." "I know about the payments," I said bluntly. "Apex Ventures $200,000 to your account last year. You approved the legacy initiative without reading it." He paled, gripping his club. "You have no proof." "I have bank records," I lied, praying he wouldn't call my bluff. "But I'm not here to ruin you. I'm here to save the foundation. Tell me what you know, and I'll keep your name out of it." After a tense silence, he sighed. "Your mother, she's persuasive. Said it was a one-time deal to secure funding. I didn't know about the rest until it was too late." "Help me stop her," I said. "Testify at the gala. Tell the truth." He looked away, then nodded. "All right. For the patients." With Harold on board, our plan solidified. Lila would take the stage as planned, but instead of announcing Legacy Phase 2, she'd reveal the truth, backed by our evidence. Marcus would stream it live to the board, the press, and the FBI, who I'd tipped off anonymously. I'd handle the tech, ensuring nothing could be shut down. The night before the gala, Evelyn called an emergency board meeting, her voice icy over the phone. "There's been a security breach," she said. "Elise, I need all audit files in my office by morning." "She knows," Marcus said when I hung up. "She's trying to erase everything." "Then we hit her first," Lila said, her eyes blazing. "Tomorrow we end this." The gala was a glittering affair, the ballroom dripping with chandeliers and roses. Every guest a who's who of philanthropy and politics. Evelyn floated through the crowd in a sapphire gown, her smile a perfect mask, while Julian hovered nearby, his eyes scanning the room like a predator. I wore a simple black dress, understated as always, but tonight it felt like armor. Lila, radiant in crimson, squeezed my hand as we mingled. "Ready?" she whispered. "Ready," I said, slipping toward the AV booth. Marcus was already there, his fingers flying over the controls. Cameras are live, he murmured. Harold's in position. The FBI's on standby. Evelyn took the stage, her voice warm and commanding. Tonight we celebrate the future of Horizon Research, she said, raising a glass. And my daughter Lila will share our bold new vision. The applause was deafening as Lila stepped up, her smile dazzling but her hands steady. Thank you, Mother, she said, her voice carrying to every corner. But before I talk about the future, let's talk about the past. Evelyn's smile froze. Lila nodded to me and I signaled Marcus. The screens behind her flared to life, displaying bank records, emails, Nora's minutes, everything. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Legacy Phase 2 isn't about research, Lila said, her voice cutting like a blade. It's about theft. Over $450,000 stolen from cancer patients, pediatric trials, rare disease studies, all funneled through my fiancé's company, with my mother's approval. Evelyn lunged for the microphone, but Harold stepped forward, his voice trembling but clear. She's telling the truth. I was part of it, bribed to stay silent. I'm done hiding. Chaos erupted. Board members shouted, reporters scrambled for their phones, and Julian bolted for the exit, only to be stopped by two men in suits, FBI agents. Evelyn's face twisted with fury as she grabbed my arm. You did this, she hissed. My own daughter. You did this, I shot back. You betrayed everyone who trusted you. As security escorted Evelyn and Julian away, Lila took my hand, her voice steady over the microphone. The foundation will rebuild, she said. Transparently. Honestly. For the patients, not for profit. The aftermath was a whirlwind. The FBI seized the foundation's accounts, uncovering millions more in hidden transfers. Evelyn and Julian faced federal charges, their empire collapsing under the weight of their greed. Harold's testimony, combined with our evidence, ensured convictions, though Evelyn never stopped proclaiming her innocence. Lila and I took over the foundation, restructuring it from the ground up. We implemented open-source accounting, live-tracked every dollar, and redirected funds to the researchers who'd been starved by Evelyn's schemes. The press dubbed it the Horizon Redemption, and while the scandal lingered, our transparency won back donors who believed in the mission. One evening, months later, Lila and I sat in my office, the city skyline glittering beyond the window. She traded her gala gowns for tailored suits, her new role as director of outreach suiting her better than she'd expected. You know, she said, swirling her coffee, I always thought Mother's approval was the goal. Turns out I like proving her wrong more. I laughed, glancing at a framed photo on my desk, not of Evelyn, but of us, arms around each other at the Foundation's first transparent grant ceremony. She taught us to play roles, I said. We just chose better ones. Marcus poked his head in, holding a stack of research proposals. Ready to change the world again? Always, I said, and Lila nodded, her smile fierce. The Foundation wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, built on truth instead of lies. And for the first time, we weren't just sisters. We were partners, rewriting our legacy one breakthrough at a time.
If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.